I bet most of us have stood in front of a closet full of clothing and yet felt the frustration of having nothing to wear. Today's founder says she has a fix. We'll hear her story to bootstrap along with support from the Lansing Regional SmartZone. Expert Connections starts now. Welcome to Expert Connections, where we connect you to experts in their fields, from legal and financial to AI and IT, startup stories, and so much more. I'm Julie Holton. Thanks for joining us. As we continue this series of startup stories, be sure to check out and subscribe to see the full Startup Connections playlist sponsored by the Lansing Regional SmartZone. Today's startup story focuses on founder of Attire, Kaylin Goddard. Kaylin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you, and I'm excited to dive into not only the technical side of your app and what you're building, but a lot of your story as a young female founder and how you are navigating your way through the startup world. So, first of all, as we dive in here, let's start with the critical question: what is Attire?
Yeah, imagine waking up and not having to think about what you're going to wear. Attire is a fashion app that truly transforms the way you get dressed every single day. And we do that by providing curated outfits using clothes that you own for any occasion and any style. And so our mission is really to help people look good so that way they can feel good and do good every single day.
I love that. I told you before we started recording that I really love the focus, the mission, the inspiration behind your startup, because when I'm working with whether it's with founders or others and their media training, when I'm talking with them about their personal brand, their marketing, in order to look your best and sound your best, to present your best self, you have to feel good. And that starts with, believe it or not, with our clothing and what we're wearing and how we look. It really influences how we feel and then how we actually are able to perform our jobs. So tell us more. What was the inspiration behind Attire?
Yeah, that's exactly what actually led me to build Attire. So I really noticed how much of an impact that what I wore had on me. So on both sides of the spectrum. So when I wore something that I thought I looked good in, I had confidence, I had a great day. But when I wore something that I didn't necessarily like or I didn't look good in, I wouldn't feel confident. And so I would think about it the rest of the day. And so what I realized is that the outfit that you wear really impacts you. And I actually realized that so many other people feel the same way. So going through that, all that to say, the process of getting dressed just really sucks. We wake up in the morning, we look at our closet that's full of clothes, and we still feel like we have nothing to wear. So we're ripping all of our clothes out of our closet, trying to find something. We end up with clothes all over the floor. We waste so much time, and we leave the house feeling so frustrated and in something that we don't even like. And so I thought there had to be a better way, and that's what led me to create Attire.
Kaylin, why is it that we have closets full of clothes and we try on 20 different things? None of them look right. It doesn't matter how many clothes you have in your closet, you can never seem to find an outfit. And
Yeah.
then enter your app. So, why does that happen? Why do we not know what to wear? Why can we not pick out an outfit?
Yeah, part of the reason is the lack of visibility. So when you think about your closet, you have clothes that are stuffed in drawers that are just not visible for you. And so what we do is like we think in our head and we have all of these pieces going around in our head, thinking what matches what. And it's just super hard to mentally think of that and really envision an outfit. And so the first problem is visibility. The second is time. So when we wake up in the morning, we normally resort to the same outfits that we wear every single day. And so 80% of people only wear 20% of the clothes that they own. And that's why it's because we just resort to the same outfits because we don't have time. And so it's easy just to wear the same things over and over again. So, yeah.
You mentioned that, like the images in our minds, and I immediately go back. This is, my generation, but I immediately go back to the movie Clueless and that, that amazing closet that we all wanted as young girls. Tell us about your app and the focus of how it's going to make things more visible and help with time.
Yeah, the Clueless is real now. So that's exciting. So essentially, we digitally create outfits for you using clothes that you own. So from you upload photos of your clothing items, and we will digitally remove the background, fill out all the information of that item for you. And from there, create outfits for you based on where you're located. So we know that you're in, for say, Detroit, Michigan. We know the weather at that time that you're dressing for in Detroit. And so we can create an outfit for you based on, let's say you want to dress for work. So we create a work outfit for you.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to come back to the technical side of building the app in just a moment. But first, let's talk about just your story a little bit here, because I know some of the details of your story, and I know that it's something that a lot of founders, especially young founders, will relate to. So tell us about your journey. Right now, you are working on Attire full time. How did you make that decision? What inspired you to take this on full time?
Yeah, so it all really started when I started feeling this frustration of my wardrobe. It was an idea for a little while, but every single day I'd wake up and get dressed and I would think about like how much I needed it. So I asked around to my friends, to people I knew, like, is this something you would use? Do you also face the same issue? And I realized quickly that so many other people were feeling the same exact way. So after graduating from Michigan State, I decided to take the full plunge and just go straight for it. And I'm so glad I did. We right after graduating, we filed as an LLC, already created the prototype and tested it and brought it to a group of developers at Michigan State who helped us in creating our MVP.
Amazing. Okay, so challenges. Let's talk challenges. Most founders, I would dare to say all founders, face some challenges in the initial journey. What has been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced so far?
Yeah, I would say a super common challenge that a lot of founders face is the feeling of doubt, like whether this will work out, what if I'm wasting my time? And at the end of the day, I feel like you really have to go back to the reason why you're doing it. And so this is something that I really struggled with and that I eventually learned to work through. And so at the end of the day, I went back to why we're doing it and who we're doing it for, which is to help people feel confident every single day, to make mornings less stressful, and to encourage people to create instead of consume in the fashion space, which is huge. And so that's what really fuels me and has pretty much completely gotten rid of the doubts that enter my head and has been one of the biggest challenges for me.
Yeah, that confidence builder, the imposter syndrome, talked to
Yeah.
a lot of founders who go through that. Even experienced founders later in the journey will often encounter new things that cause this confidence issue to come back into play. So, not surprised at all to hear that. Love your advice on that. I'm curious too. So, you're in the process. You have your MVP. You're building out the app now. I believe you're not a developer. You're not a coder.
Yeah.
So founders like you who want to build a piece of technology to realize their vision, how have you gone about finding developers, working with that tech side of things? Has that been a challenge?
Yeah, that is also one of the biggest challenges I faced. I had to be very scrappy since I had to create my MVP as a non-technical founder. So just creating makeshift solutions at first to prove that this is something people need. So showing people how they can manage their wardrobe, but without building out the tech for it first. So I had to be scrappy in that way. And then also just like using my resources. So Michigan State has this awesome club, which is called Imagine Software. And essentially, it's a club of student coders. And so I pitched to them the idea and I won their pitch competition. So we won development for a couple of months to finish our MVP, which has been awesome and super helpful.
Funding is a question that a lot of founders, every founder faces. So, whether it's bootstrapping, seeking out funding, what has been your approach to finding the money in order to build the app?
Yeah. So we really bootstrapped at first, just the general things that you have to spend money on when creating a startup like LLC, all that good stuff. So we bootstrapped at first, and then we're really thankful to be supported by the Lansing community where we're able to raise some funds in order to finish out our MVP and our first version of the app.
Yeah, I love that. I think oftentimes in the startup world, we talk a lot about VC, we talk a lot about angel investors and a lot about bootstrapping. And what I really love for those that are focused on bootstrapping is the amount of grant funding, the amount of resources that are available in communities like Lansing, working with the Lansing Regional SmartZone. Grand Rapids has SmartZone, and just being able to connect with the economic development, the drivers that are really working within the ecosystem to help those that are seeking funding. I feel like anywhere you go, there is funding available. There may be different guidelines you have to follow and parameters, of course, but just seeking out some of those ESOs, those entrepreneurial support organizations who help founders like you is a great way to shape your journey. So,
Mhm.
okay, so want to come back to this idea of normally we shy away from talking about things like gender and age and the impact on startups, but this is a conversation, Kaylin, that you and I have talked about. I have another podcast, Think of Three, where we focus on the female journey and the impact on women. So let's just talk about this. What has it been like for you? As you know, you mentioned you just graduated from Michigan State as a younger female founder. Have you felt that this has impacted your journey in any way?
Yeah, well, first off, I'd say it's been super fun. Like, that's the first thing. I've learned a lot, and I'm so, like, thankful to be a part of this process and journey. As a female founder, I would say the biggest challenge that I faced is being taken seriously, but this is mostly from, like, older generations who may not align with what, Attire is offering, so which is totally completely fine, just something that, like, really surprised me.
I was given advice once. I hold a lot of masterminds, and in the course of launching these masterminds, I was given the advice of making sure that every generation is represented. And I remember when I was given that advice years ago, this is probably 7 years ago, I thought, ooh, I don't know, like, do I really need like people that are like of every generation, or do I was thinking like, oh, I think I just want people that are like me, people that understand my journey and they understand where I am in life. And I took the advice anyway and had at least one person kind of representative of each generation. And I'm telling you, by the end of this mastermind, the older generation was saying how much they learned from the younger and vice versa. And it was just really interesting to have that variety of perspective. So, flipping all of this around, how has your perspective helped to influence others in this space? Do you feel like you're able to show up with fresh ideas and energy and find creative ways to be taken seriously? Like, how are you influencing the space that you're in?
Yeah, great question. I would say I've also gotten a lot of great advice from the older generation too, just since their experience, especially with founders, has been super impactful. In regards to kind of my similar age group, I've also working with them and working alongside of software developers, they have given me a fresh new perspective on what's possible, and things that I couldn't have even thought of, has been super great. And also just working with them too, I'm sure I've shared a lot of like fashion ideas with them too that has been useful. So yeah.
Okay, so from the idea stage now with the MVP, working on development towards building out your app, talk through the business model and what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, so we're starting with our core product, which is wardrobe management and creation. And so essentially creating outfits for you, saving them. So in the morning you wake up, you go to the app and have an outfit idea for you, or a list of outfits that you've already worn and that you love and that you can just choose from. And so we're starting with that as our core product. We'll then launch our marketplace a little later on, where our users can buy and sell from each other's wardrobes. Really, our goal with this is to contribute to a more sustainable fashion industry by encouraging secondhand. And then lastly, is we are offering a social media platform. And so we are kind of filling the gap between every single step in the process of personal fashion, starting from inspiration. So seeing people's outfits to creation. So building outfits from that inspiration, and then to selling and buying.
Interesting. So taking that marketing aspect and building it right into the app. That's very creative. Would love to hear more and see more about that as you get to that phase on our marketing connection segment. Halen, you mentioned sustainability. Tell us more about this. I think this is really going to pique a lot of attention.
Yeah, the fashion industry is, I think, now the third largest polluting industry in the world behind oil and gas. And there's this crazy statistic that's showing how in the fashion industry, buying of clothes is skyrocketing, but the utilization of clothing is plummeting. So what that means is that people are buying more and more pieces, but they're using their pieces less and less. And what this is actually fueled by is a circular process that a lot of us go through with our personal fashion journey. And so it starts with waking up, getting dressed, and feeling frustrated that we have nothing to wear. And so we just buy new pieces, thinking that's the problem. But the root issue, like I said, is that we just don't know how to utilize them, or we don't have the time to utilize all of our pieces. And so that's really why we're creating Attire, is to instead of promote overconsumption, promote the creation of pieces that you already own. And then lastly, with our marketplace, in regards to sustainability, while you're shopping and you click on an item, we actually provide curated outfits for how that piece could look like with clothes that you currently own. And so with this, we're really promoting informed purchasing decisions. So our shoppers are able to be more confident in the pieces that they buy, knowing that it matches something that they already own. This decreases returns, and it just makes people more confident in what they're buying, spending less time and money on wasted purchases. So we're really excited to be making a real impact in regards to sustainability within such a polluting industry.
That pollution problem is huge. I remember reading during COVID about all of the returns, all of the people doing that COVID shopping, the late night shopping on Amazon, of course, and numbers were skyrocketing, even on things like clothing. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know where people were going in that clothing, because we were at the time, we were all working from home,
Right.
quarantined, no place to go. But the part of that problem I read was on the returns.
Yeah.
And the returns just get wasted. But I had no idea until you just shared the stats that a
Mhm.
lot of the waste is happening in our own closet. Great time to point out another interview with a stylist, a color stylist, that will also help you figure out how to not buy the colors that aren't going to actually look good on you. A great compliment to the app that you're building, Kaylin. Kaylin, June is Startup Grind's Female Founders Month, where we celebrate women founders, women in startups. What advice do you have for other startup founders who are maybe looking at navigating a similar journey?
Yeah, I would say first is create a network. There are so many other female founders out there, and get plugged into local communities. Like we were talking about, like your local regional SmartZone. And there's so many founders that have gone through the same journey, experiencing the same pain points, and I've learned a lot from other female founders just by getting plugged in. And also take the leap. If you find a valid problem in a market and you know that the solution that you have is the right fix for it, just start creating and just start testing it. I would just say take the leap is the hardest part, but it's important.
And take the leap and check out our other startup stories in our Startup Connections segment. All right, Kaylin, aside from your incredible story as a startup founder, people are going to be interested in this app. Where can they go? What can they get right now?
Yeah, we're really excited to be launching this summer. And so make sure you follow us on Instagram at attireapp_. And then also join our waitlist at attireappco.com.
I will put all of those links in the show notes. Make sure to check out Attire. And Kaylin, thank you for being on the show. That is all the time we have for today. Be sure to subscribe to Expert Connections, and we'll see you next week with another new episode.